Greetings, sports entertainment enthusiasts! This is CAW Acadian champion Homeless Bob, and you are currently watching Wrestle Geeks Recaps, catching you up on AEW Dynamite, NXT, and so very much more.
Welcome, everybody, to a special episode of Wrestle Geeks. This is hopefully the first of many. I'm your host, the Geek, Trevor Firth, and I'm joined today by the CAW Acadian champion, Homeless Bob. How's it going, man?
Hey, man, how are you? You could hear that, right?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly. Don't worry about it.
Okay, good.
So, other than being stuck at home and trying to find new ways of keeping myself occupied.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I know the feeling. I'm staying in my little box.
Yeah. So, Bob, hopefully this will be the first of many interviews that I'm going to do, but I'm super happy to have you as my first.
It's an honor.
Man, I cannot give you enough credit or praise, in my opinion. In my humble opinion,
you, sir.
In my humble opinion, you are probably the best comedy wrestler out of the Maritimes.
Thank you for saying so.
I think that CAW making the call to put that title on you before I got there, when I got there and they told me that they were already planning on doing that with you, I was, wow, great. I knew that was going to be a good place for me to work because I knew that they agreed with a lot of my opinions.
I knew it was going to be a good place to work as well. I'll level with you. A few years ago, especially when Championship Acadian Wrestling was known as Acadian Peninsula Wrestling, it did not have that good of a reputation. We all know why, but at least a lot of the guys who started with the Peninsula were willing to be legitimately trained and learn and all that other stuff. Yeah, and in time, anybody who didn't want to change with the times went out the door, and the guys who are there now are actually they're a hell of a lot better than I believe a lot of people think, and I think they're a lot better than they give themselves credit for. And I'm glad to be there. Like, everybody's awesome.
Oh man, CAW is home.
Yeah,
that locker room is home. It'll always be home.
There doesn't seem to be any agenda, any politics, and I love that. Politics is one thing that you got to accept about the industry, but I've always
absolutely. Like, I mean, everybody's always vying to have the title, or everybody's always vying for a top storyline, and that's of course you should be. If you're not pushing to be at the top of the card, then what are you doing?
I'm always for top stories and stuff like that, because above all else, one thing that attracted me to wrestling was the drama and the emotion and the storytelling. It's like when we watch TV or movies, we watch to be moved, to feel, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, wrestling's the same thing, like theater and athleticism and all that. Like I never really cared about titles because I always had the mentality they're just props, whatevs. But top storytelling and whatnot, like drawing people to events by telling a story.
Wrestling is real. It's the only form of media that is real-time storytelling.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
It's really cool for that reason. So you now live in New Brunswick.
That's right.
But you were originally from Ontario, correct?
Yeah, born and kind of raised in Hamilton, Ontario, which actually was, back in the day, a big wrestling town. It still is. There's quite a lot of outfits that run there.
There's a lot going on there now, but it definitely died down for a while.
Oh yeah, but like decades ago, we're talking like it was a big wrestling town, and it was always a blue collar town because their bread and butter was steel once upon a time. Now, unfortunately, at least when we moved from there 6.5 years ago, they had very little bread and almost no butter. That's where I started. I was trained at the Living Legends Wrestling Academy. It was actually owned by a former wrestler and promoter named Ernie Moore, the Executioner, and he actually worked with and was colleagues with the likes of Rotten Reggie Love and the late great Billy Red Lyons, the missing link Dewey Robertson.
Okay.
Yeah, like Angela Mosca, people like that. I know this is like decades
Some of
ago.
these names I know, some of these names I don't. I'll be honest. Like,
Well,
you
this is after the second ice age, so I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I was born after the second ice age. But yeah, Ernie owned the gym. I was trained primarily by Rip Impact. I know you know him.
Yes.
Yeah, as well as Reggie Marley and the Asian Nightmare Quan Chang.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it honestly was. Ernie himself had some really awesome like ideas and really athletic ideas, like some high flying stuff. It's like some really nifty stuff that I don't see anymore, including comedy. That's kind of where I got the nose spot from.
Okay, yeah. I love the nose spot. I'm not gonna lie.
I love it too.
It's so simple, but it works.
Yeah, he was the one who showed us how to do the gimmick with the referee, where he's like, "I said, break the hold."
That's great, though. That's super smart thinking. Like, comedy wrestling doesn't get enough credit.
Yeah. Well,
you look at some of the big names right now in AEW.
Yeah.
And like Joey Janela, GCW, Deathmatch, Crazy Joey Janela is an amazing comedy wrestler, and it's just him. It's just his personality.
Yeah. He's just that quirky, and that's why it works. Because he like I've never met the man, but I think it's safe to say he really is that quirky. Except in public, I would imagine he keeps it down to like warp 2 instead of warp 9.
But then you have like on Being the Elite, you got the Good Brothers and you got Young Bucks doing stupid stuff. You got John Silver from Dark Order. It's probably one of the funniest wrestlers I have ever seen in my life, and I don't even know if he's trying.
No, like, just that naturally gifted. Oh, and dude, how can we forget Chris Jericho?
Yeah, Jericho's amazing.
Of all time, always great with comedy. I still crack up when I think of when he was trying to outdo Dean Malenko by declaring himself the man of 1,004 holes.
Yes.
This was Nitro, and he had that list full of maneuvers that he supposedly knew, and a lot of them were fictitious, and every second one was armbar or bar.
Yeah, that's another thing. Jericho, I don't think Jericho is so good at everything else that everybody forgets how good of a comedy guy he is until he actually like really goes out. Like him and Orange Cassidy, that rivalry was hilarious.
Speaking of great comedy wrestlers, and he is like immensely talented.
He is immensely talented.
Yeah, I'd never actually seen him until I saw him on AEW Dynamite with the Best Friends.
Yeah.
And, you know, like some people online, I remember were criticizing him because he just stood there with his hands in his pockets.
Oh, yeah. I had already seen some of his stuff and beyond
at that point. Like, people were saying, he probably can't work. And I'm thinking, yes, he can, or he wouldn't be there. And he's a hell of a lot better than people think.
Until he came up with the gimmick of Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
He was apparently like... Sorry?
Right? He was Fire Ant, wasn't he?
Yes, he was one of the Fire Ants, yes.
Yeah.
But not only that, he was wrestling as himself on the indie scene, like just a normal guy. And that's the thing. He's good. He's good. He was just as good as what he is now, but nobody cared. Nobody noticed.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have that gimmick. He didn't have that
character.
That energy, that character, yeah.
Yeah.
And we've seen it. Comedy has just become a part of wrestling recently.
Speaking of comedy, this is from decades ago, so I'm probably dating myself. I actually dated myself when I was in high school a lot because no girls wanted to go out with me. But anyway, decades ago, and I honestly think this stuff would get over today if people just had more patience, because wrestling was obviously a lot more slower paced back then. And this is the United Kingdom, where, you know, guess what? There was a lot of
catch as can, slow pace is kind of the way of things.
Well, you know how
at least that's back then.
You know how wrestling or sports entertainment is considered an art form, right? And it is. Yeah, the best example of that to me was wrestling back then. But anyway, there were two comedy wrestlers, and watching their matches even today just cracks me up. There was Les Kellett. Yeah, his comedy was very subtle, but it was just so good. And another comedy wrestler, like his comedy was much more over the top, was Gary Cooper, Cat Weasel.
Oh, I know that name. Okay.
Yeah, he based his look and his gimmick on a I believe a cartoon character or like a wizard from a TV show in
It
Britain.
was what was it? A British kids show?
Yes, it was.
It was based on a British kids show, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing is, Gary Cooper looked a lot like this character, and
so he just leaned into it.
Yeah, some fans actually would call him Cat Weasel during his matches. So he embraced the gimmick, and oh my lord, the first time I ever saw him, it was actually a match I think William Regal put over on Twitter. Him and Steve Peacock. It was so freaking great. It was so awesome. Like both of them worked really well in that match.
So you said since Hamilton was such like it was a big wrestling hub back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Right. So did your because we all start as fans.
Oh yeah. Oh, actually, speaking of Hamilton, the very first Royal Rumble event was there, January of '88.
Yes. Yeah.
I was there, man. I was there.
That's amazing.
Yes, it was. It was magic. My mother worked so hard because we didn't have a whole hell of a lot of money. Because that's just how it is. I'm pretty sure she did without food so that she could buy tickets so we could go and see the event because she knew how.
Oh my God.
God rest her. We fought like cats and dogs, but wow. But yeah, you're right. Sorry to keep babbling.
We never realize the sacrifices our parents make for us until we're older. Or until we have our own sometimes.
Oh yeah, brother, that's true. Anyhow, yeah. So we all started stands.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we all started stands, and I was just wondering, like, since you started in Hamilton, which was such a wrestling hub. Mm-hmm. Did your fandom start more on the indie scene, or was your fandom more TV, WWF, WCW, or was it indie, or was it a combination of both, really just growing your love for wrestling at the same time?
As confusing as this may sound, actually all of the above. When I got hooked on wrestling, when I got the sickness, not the one that's around right now. And by the way, everyone, we will be okay. So have faith and hang in there, man. I know it's tough, but yeah. The sickness in wrestling, because once you get hit with that, you're never cured. It was actually the birth of Hulkamania when Hulk Hogan beat the Iron Sheik for the world title the first time. I watched that with my dad, and it was like magic,
Oh man, yeah.
That's actually one thing I love is that I get to watch wrestling with my youngest ones because they're about the same age I was when I got into it.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it was the TV and pay-per-view product when I was a kid. I was a WWF fan, but my dad also had tapes of like old territory wrestling.
Oh, okay.
So I would watch other stuff. There was also All-Star Wrestling. I think it was based in British Columbia that I sometimes would watch after the WWF on the weekend. But I also saw tapes of like savage monsters like Abdullah the Butcher and the Sheik and all that. Like, I'm not sure a little kid my age should be watching a crazy old man going around stabbing people.
But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. And then I started watching the NWA product, WCW when it became known, and I started actually liking it. It's like, wow, there are other good products out there. Yeah. And it just, ECW, everything along the way. And they sometimes showed indie events on what used to be called Cable 14 in Hamilton. I'm not sure what it is now. So it was all of the above, liking other products besides the WWF or WWE, getting into the indies, going to indie events. I actually met a couple of my future trainers before I started training at indie events and stuff.
And that must have been like one of the coolest feelings ever, to actually be in the ring being trained by people that you had grew up watching.
It honestly was. And the thing is, primarily two of my trainers, work heel. Yeah, so they'd be jerks to me on their way out and on their way back, and during the match when we heckled them. And a few years later, I actually, get the bright idea, like, you know what? I've always wanted to do this. I'm gonna do it or die trying. And yeah, and I almost died. Those guys put me through my paces. Rip especially.
So, if you feel like talking about it, first gimmicks.
First gimmicks?
Homeless Bob is who you are.
Yeah.
Homeless Bob is definitely who you are right now. A little bit. It's very much a lot of the real you.
Yeah, well, it is me with up to warp 9. I've never dressed to impress.
Yeah.
I just dressed how I felt or whatever clothes I had available on laundry day, and I've
But
always
but not everybody stumbles into that character or that gimmick early,
yeah.
right? So do you have some of those embarrassing maybe or just like regretful gimmicks or just weird?
Here's the thing. For the most part, I always worked as Bob.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm actually glad that the character went this way because while I was training, a couple of others, like who trained and who worked the Hamilton area. One of them was Mark Shaw.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a worker based in Hamilton, but he's worked elsewhere as well. He's actually really awesome. Good guy. I wanted to do the gimmick where I was like some thug on the street, like some street thug who liked to fight, and he knew right away that wasn't me because I wasn't the kind of guy who went downtown.
Not your personality.
No. So he suggested that I go more the hobo route. Like dressing in rags and stuff, and that I needed like just an awful name.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, how about Bob? Homeless Bob, like homeless Jimmy. So I'm like, sure, why not? And I figured I'd like this would be the gimmick I'd have, so I'd have something to get over with the audience. And I knew full well when I started I was going to be garbage, and oh my god, I was. Yeah, like a lot of guys, they liked me because I was a nice guy and because I was willing to work hard, but quite often they hated working with me because I was such,
We all learn at different paces, man.
Oh God. It took me months and months to learn how to do an honest to God proper back bump. I trained with younger and smaller guys who picked it up like nothing, who were doing shows months after they trained. And it was like months and months before I even had my first first match. Anyhow. So
well,
yeah, I figured this would be
that's good on your trainer though.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Because it shows that they cared enough to make sure that you were ready to be in that ring, and they didn't just throw you out there. Like there's some really there's some horror stories out there about people not being ready and being thrown into the ring.
I was really there. It was the experience of the guys I worked with when I started that made the match totally not garbage. The co-owner of the gym, unfortunately, like not Ernie, not Ernie. He was a good guy. His partner was the kind of guy who would willingly put backyarders out there. Like he just wanted one of those promoters who just wanted a payday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was very nearly like that, but the experience and the intelligence of the guys I was working with kept it safe. And they tried to they honest to God tried to make chicken salad out of chicken poop working with me when I started, but yeah.
Oh man, we all start somewhere. We all the Maritime Wrestling Academy had a show in Kaizen, had a co-branded show in September.
Yeah, okay.
And I think it was September. And a lot of people on that show, it was their very first ever match.
So it was a student show, right?
Yeah. But everybody was against someone experienced.
Which is how it should be.
Yeah. I think the only two really it was Sam Shields and Mia Malik that faced each other.
Okay.
Which technically they would be the only two that are students that actually faced each other, but they had already wrestled on the indie scene a handful of matches against other people before doing this show. They both had more experience.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And
honestly, one thing I wish I did was that I'd actually had the backbone to go out there and pay my dues more and get more gigs, because that way I would have gotten better sooner and made a bit more money. But whatever.
Well, it's like going about trying to help out an indie show when you're not part of the crew. No, you're just like a fan. Yeah. Like my first time, there's times at shows where like people are cleaning up after shows, and like I would be tempted to like pick up chairs and help out, but at the same time I'm like, should I? Like I'm just a fan. I'm not. Like, I barely know these guys yet. I've just talked to the wrestlers a handful of times. Like I was just starting to go to indie shows at this point. So I was like, what? I want to help. I want to be in this business one day. Do I just do this?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, do I just do it? And like, it took somebody from the business telling me, like, yeah, man, yeah, if you want to help out, just help out, go for it.
Did you ever do the gimmick where they offered to let you in for free if you help set up the ring?
I never asked anybody for anything like that. I usually showed up at shows a little early anyway, but I had to travel to get to every indie show because being where I am in New Brunswick, like there's not much up here. Even for the CAW shows, I gotta drive 2 hours just to get there.
I remember the Campbellton area quite well. That's right around where my parents grew up.
Yeah, okay. That's true. You told me that before.
Yeah, my grandparents lived in and actually built a home a few miles outside of Campbellton in a really small setting called Glenlevitt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No Glenlevitt well, of course.
Ah, cool. Anyhow, yeah. Sorry, man. Keep getting sidetracked.
No, it's good. Oh, we're just talking, man. It's just that's the whole point of it, right? So eventually you got in the ring, you got your gimmick and everything, but so next step really is, what's the difference between Ontario scene and Maritimes to you?
It's bigger.
Yeah. A lot more competition up there, I can imagine.
Oh yeah, for sure, and a lot more outfits thus far. To be honest, it's kind of like the scene here in the Maritimes, except on a bigger scale because it's a bigger province, and thus again more promotions. You got guys who are really awesome. You got guys who are tolerable, and you have guys who are like, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?" With the
hey, brother, how's it going, brother?
Yeah, that doesn't work for me, brother.
I'll be honest, I'm one of those generation wrestling fans that I'm so sour on the word and on the term brother.
Yeah.
Like it, and I know a lot of the people around here are just of that generation.
Yeah.
So like I'm talking to people and then they're like, "Oh yeah, of course, anytime, brother." And I'm like I get this moment, this feeling. I'm like,
disgust,
no,
right? It's like,
and I'm like, no, he means it. He's being serious. He's not being backhanded. Because I just associate it so much to that Hulk Hogan, Vince Russo,
brother.
Like, I think it's just my generation just associates that term to that seediness that
because about God love him. I mean, he was my hero when I was a kid. He was the catalyst for my love for the business. But while Hulk Hogan is an awesome character and everybody should try to be like him, except more sportsmanlike, Terry Bollea, unfortunately, was human. And humans F up in a big way.
You're talking to a massive Chris Benoit fan?
Oh, hey, man.
Unapologetic Chris, I'm unapologetically a fan of Chris Benoit. I mean, I know, and I don't care. Praise him. Chris Benoit needs to be respected for what he did in the business anyway.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
It's not quite that dark, but you remember Pete Rose?
Yes.
One of the greatest ball players of all time, but he made a very bad choice and he paid dearly for it. And I still don't think they've let him in the Hall of Fame, have they?
Nope.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
He's still persona non grata as far as Major League Baseball is concerned.
It's one of those things, look, I understand why Chris Benoit will never be in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Chris Benoit being eradicated from WWE history, on the other hand, that leaves a sour taste in my mouth. But whatever.
Well, we know what they're like. They no longer acknowledge someone's existence depending on whether or not they're mad at you.
Yep.
Yeah. So the Benoit tragedy aside, and
let's face it, there are people like that in wrestling all over the world.
Yep. Politics, man. That's, like I said, that's one thing I've always hated about the industry, but you have no choice but to accept it.
Well, I'm like, it is what it is.
Try not to be that guy. If you can't,
exactly,
if you have to stab people in the back to get over, are you really as talented as you let on?
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's another thing. The ego, I mean, great. There are guys in the industry who have been and will be way more successful than I. I'm okay with that. Just as long as I can look back and say every now and then I made a good payday.
Well, as long as you look back with fond memories, that's all that really matters in the end, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have so much love and passion and respect for this industry that just being a part of it in any way being graced with like the possibility of going backstage and being involved is incredible. And I could never ask for more.
Oh, dear Lord, thank you. I have a promoter in front of me who actually gets it.
Well, I mean, let's face it.
You're not even a character on your own show. That's different.
No, I'm me. I'm me at all times. I'm a very candid person. I always have been. And I think everybody who, like all the workers in the Maritimes who have taken the time to talk with me, will, like, some of them have probably been very, like, standoffish a little bit, probably because, like, he's so nice. Does he want something? What's he planning? You know what I mean? Because
I'm nice timing you because they're like, who's this kid?
Yeah, there's that too. They're but yeah, who cares? I mean, everybody starts somewhere. I'm new. I don't blame them for thinking that. I don't have a lot under my belt yet to really show what I can do. COVID hit, and it unfortunately really ended those opportunities. But
oh yeah, it really bites. I haven't wrestled since last February, and like, the way things are, especially now that we're in orange, like until things start to look up, I ain't leaving the house unless I have to.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't go anywhere unless I have no choice either.
Yeah. But anyhow, and you asked me about some embarrassing moments.
If you had anything you wanted to share.
I
know you've done all sorts of funny and ridiculous things in the ring. So
some of as far as a few regrets, like going out there when I wasn't ready, and that was one thing, because like I said, my first few matches were just like, well, no pun intended, trash, and it's definitely not on my opponents. But there was one embarrassingly funny moment when I worked as a ring announcer at an event at Unit 13 where the Academy was located, and a lot of really great live events took place there. Lufisto was actually on that event. It was the first time I ever saw her live, and she wrestled Warhead. I don't know if you heard of him. Yeah, the owner and the promoter of Death Proof. They had like a really awesome like weapons match. Like they bloody well killed each other. But I worked as a ring announcer, and I was supposed to make the announcement excuse me, at intermission for the raffle.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember the fan actually winning a grand total of $10. He won the raffle, but it was $10.
Ooh.
He was so embarrassed that he wouldn't even stand up and come in the ring and claim his prize. He was just like, no. Just like, okay.
No, just keep it. Just keep it. The promotion needs it more than I do at that point.
Oh yeah.
That's what I would have been saying if I were him. Just, you guys need it more than I do.
It really did. Like, it was a good house. Like
yeah, no, 50-50s. 50-50s are weird, man. You can have a massive house and still not get anything on a 50-50. And then you can have like
50-50. This was a 90-10.
Oh my god. And then you can have like 80 people. You can have like 50 to 60 people in the crowd, and you can have like $100 50-50, $150 50-50. But then you can have almost 200 people in the crowd, and you have like $30 50-50.
So that was the first embarrassing moment. The second one was connected to intermission. As I was about to make the announcement, I got on the mic, and all of a sudden I hear. Do you hear that?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and.
Oh my god.
So I'm like, one moment, please. I think I'm having difficulty. So I go backstage, and I don't know if you've heard of him. Dave Linton. He worked as a referee, but before that, he worked as l'artiste when he started in like the mid to late 90s. And then he had a very risque gimmick where he played an ambiguously but flamboyantly gay character called Phil Lacio.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, very.
I've never heard of this. But you saying that is just like, ooh, the cringe.
It was actually a really funny gimmick, but it's not. I mean, he had to tone it down for kid shows. What's that?
Wrestling has that curse that wrestling has portrayed a lot of things in very, very, very negative lights. Because wrestling takes advantage of the here and now and takes advantage of how people feel. Like right now, it's probably the time when you could pull off like white men as heels. You can take half of your roster that are just white guys and go, you're a heel now. Mm-hmm. And they don't even need a storyline reason for being it. They don't need any. The crowd will buy it because that's the current mentality against white men.
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah, the industry mirrors society. Exactly. It always has. That's why you had like foreign heels from Japan because of Pearl Harbor, and that's why Americans were heels in Japan because of like Hiroshima and stuff.
Yeah, of course.
No, getting back to the rib that was going on.
Yes.
Dave or Phil, I go backstage to see what's going on, and then he was walking across the quote unquote locker room, making raspberry sounds into the auxiliary mic, and then he sees me, and then he puts the mic behind his back, like, yeah, what?
Yeah, so that's the kind of shit that happens at indie shows. Oh, every once in a while, one of the guys just decides to do something.
Well, ribbing the new guy, whatever. I expected that. Yeah. It was, to me, it was actually a good sign because it mean that at least they tolerated me or something. I don't know. Maybe I was wrong.
But no, absolutely, man. They, like this guy was willing to sabotage. Was willing to like make everybody in the crowd and like lose their shit and break the moment of the show just to rib you.
Hey, well, why not?
And it worked. If it works, it worked, man. I'll be honest, as a promoter, I'd be walking back there like you better goddamn hope that crowd is laughing.
They were. They honestly were. But yeah. There were great matches on the card, but unfortunately it was poorly organized and poorly promoted, and being
it happens.
Get paid, so whatever. And they were just like, this is crap. So we're having fun. But
my first ever time at CAW, I mean, I had to run in as a security guard and get thrown out of the ring. So.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That was
When was that again?
Oh my goodness, I don't even know. It's been way too long now. That was my wife's second. Wait, yeah, it was my wife's second CAW show that she reffed.
Oh, that would have been November of. That actually would have been when Chris Lewis put me over for.
Yes, it is. That's when you won the title.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the show you won the title at. So yes, that was. I had to run in it during the main event.
Oh yeah.
And do security guard to get thrown out of the ring.
Oh, I've had to do that gimmick. I got knocked off the apron one time by Steve Brown, and they were actually really impressed by the back bump I took because it wasn't quite the nasty plunge that Mick Foley or Bubba Ray Dudley would have taken, but it was it looked nasty, and I didn't move. I crumpled.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, well, I mean, man, you can sell.
Oh,
you're a very good seller. I've seen you take some moves where I've been like, is he actually hurt?
I've actually had that happen at a match in training. It was just a squash. I was just told, you don't get no offense, sell. So the person I worked with, the more experienced one, he worked my back, and then he put me in, I think it was a sharpshooter at the end, and I tapped. And after the match, I still rolled out of the ring, still selling my back.
Of course.
And it got to the point, I just went and sat on the bleachers. I was fine, but Reggie came over. He's like, "Bob, you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." He's like, "Go do laps. You made me think you were hurt." But make us do laps.
My wife had a moment like that once where she was holding one of the wrestlers, and he had half his weight on her, and he was she was like, I think he might actually be hurt. Oh my goodness. I think he might have at least gotten rocked at the end, right?
Yeah.
And the moment they go through the curtain, he's just like, that was great. Everybody bought it.
Simone or
yeah.
I thought so. God love him. I mean,
he's great at that.
He's very blunt, and he does rub a lot of people the wrong way sometimes. But he and I have always gotten on pretty well, and I've always found him funny.
I think that's one of the things about CAW. A lot of us are very upfront and honest about the way we feel and the way we see things in the business, and that definitely rubs some the wrong way. Definitely. There have been people who have walked into our locker room who have definitely been like, oh, these guys, they got a lot of loud opinions on wrestling.
Different cultures. That's just the way it is. I'm sure like being open and upfront and honest has been encouraged and whatever, you know. I actually prefer people to be open and honest, as long as it's constructive and like how you think I can improve, rather rather than just being like, you know, rather than just tearing down, you know.
Like I honestly, if I book somebody and I don't enjoy their match and I don't enjoy what happened, like there's a reason why I want to book this person in the first place, right?
Yeah.
I don't just book somebody without looking into them. So
that was a mistake the co-owner of Living Legends made. God love him.
I will try to talk to this person.
What's that?
I will definitely try to talk to this person if I didn't enjoy the match and see like what's going on. Like if I truly believe that this person, like I was wrong maybe, and this person won't be a good fit, or this person doesn't have what it takes, man, I'm not gonna bullshit them and be like, yeah, see you at next show, and then just not tell them there's a show.
Sorry,
no, I'm like I tell them straight there, like, man, like I don't think I'm gonna use you again right now. Like I think you got a little bit more work to do on this or that, but I'm also the kind of guy who'd be like, okay, well, maybe I put you in the wrong position. Let's scale it back. Let's try something different. Let's, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not afraid to let people go out and try things. As long as people are communicating with me about what they want to do, and as long as it doesn't throw as long as it doesn't throw a wrench into the story I'm trying to tell, then I am open to working with people to making something work. I'm open to changing storylines to an extent if you never know. Somebody might come up to me with a better idea than mine, of course. I'm not going to be like, oh, but this is my story. Oh, this is what I want to do. I want this to happen. No, I don't care.
I've actually seen that. People, and you know, I'm not like passing judgment, because these are people who are either inexperienced or just stubborn or afraid that the person asking is going to take it away from them. I've seen like experienced vets who've been in the business like way longer than me and know their stuff. They've booked, they've promoted and stuff. Just like, hey man, can I take a look at the book there? And you know, like to me, if a vet, especially, or you know, like somebody who's booked and promoted and knows their stuff, wants to look at the book and has opinions, like sure, man, thanks for taking the time. But like unfortunately, I've seen bookers, promoters with less experience and younger than you as well, just be stubborn. You know, like no, my book. You know, it's like.
I mean, if somebody's in their like their younger mid-20s, I can picture that, because people that are in their younger mid-20s are more likely to just do things like that without realizing what they're doing.
Oh, for sure.
I was definitely a hell of a lot more like that back then.
I was in my mid-20s when I started, and I thought I knew everything, and I paid dearly for it.
Yeah, there you go.
But it's just the mentality was acting like my two youngest. You know, like no, my toy.
Yeah, exactly. So I really quickly.
Yeah.
Is there anybody in the Maritimes that you would like to work that you haven't had the opportunity to work with? And yeah, your booker asking you this. That's an interesting question, huh?
Well, I would like I really enjoyed working with Dragon X Shane Stevens. He's a really awesome worker. You know, he's been around for a while, really knows his stuff. His timing is amazing.
I really enjoyed that match.
Yeah, so did I.
Really enjoyed that match.
It was Marissa's first match, right?
Yes, it was her first time reffing ever.
Yeah, well, I guess I forgot because I got a memory like a goldfish, but like it didn't come off that way.
No, apparently even Shane told her, like, if you wouldn't be the one who told me, I would not have believed you that was your first ever match. I'm like, that's
like wow. She'd been in it for at least a little while, you know, and like working with Shane was a pleasure. It's one of my favorite matches. I'd love to work with him again at some point, but who knows? Apart from that, oh man, there's
a decent amount of.
I'm honestly willing to work with anybody. Just just don't be a jerk. Don't screw me over, and let's respect our mutual well-being, like our physical health in the ring. Apart from that, I'll pretty much work with anyone. Yeah, I'm easy, man.
That's one of the reasons why I love you.
Yeah, I just want to show up and work and get paid like everybody else, and just go out there and work as often as I can, make as much money as I can before I'm too old to walk. Probably
So,
another 5 years at this point.
So before we wrap this up,
Okay.
because I think this has been going. I think we have a good. This has been fun little interview, not too long. But before we wrap this up, I want to say quickly, I want to thank you personally because
thank you. It's been a pleasure, man.
Well, man, I have learned a lot just by being around you.
Really?
I have. It's one of those things where somebody new walking into the industry, and
careful now, man. I might be leading you down a bad path. Some people will tell you that.
Well, like what somebody who comes in new to the industry, and I have ideas that some people could consider slightly different, slightly radical for wrestling. Especially maybe like Maritimes has a traditional old school mentality as well,
which I love
for the most part
to a certain extent. Yeah.
And so me being able to I bounce my ideas off of you more than anybody else.
Yeah,
I think you know more about my booking plans for the next year than the owners of CAW do at the moment.
Oh, dude, don't say that. Now you're gonna have all the guys coming to me saying, "What's happening? Am I getting the belt? Am I just getting squashed? And what's happening?" It's like, no, this isn't WCW worldwide tapings, man. I don't know what's going on.
No, I mean, you don't know details. I bounce my storylines ideas off you, and I've always felt like you were a good creative mind for that. From the first time you and me have talked in a locker room, I love your creative way of thinking. And every time I've brought up an idea of any kind, you never do the "I don't think that'll work" or "that's a bad idea." You always expand. You don't even settle for my idea. You look at it and go, "Well, what if we did this and this?"
I hope you don't. I hope you don't mind that, because
I don't mind at all. I'd rather somebody give me what they I like the idea of giving wrestlers my storyline for what I envision for their characters. But just because that's how I perceive their characters and I envision their characters doesn't mean that's what the wrestler really envisions for their character. So I am always open to talking. Always open to talking. Now, if I shoot somebody down,
that's a good mentality.
If I shoot somebody down, I would appreciate if they respect it, because I did them the respect of listening.
Yeah.
But also, it doesn't mean I'm not going to use it in the future.
Exactly. It's just,
time and place. Time and place.
Well, it's always good to have an open mind, because unfortunately there are just some who don't. Like, this is the way I want it done, and this is the way it's going to be done. The biggest outfit in the world, from what I understand,
is very much like that.
Yeah, and that's my one point of contention. But I just never like being told what to do.
Yeah, I understand that. So I'm one of those new age. I'm a more or less new age wrestling fan. I am a diehard indie guy. Sorry?
It's always good to be more constructive, to build, not tear down.
Yeah. See, I watched wrestling when I was my cousin used to babysit me. He had VHS tapes of WWF.
Oh wow, VHS tapes. So did I.
Treasure early Rumbles, early Manias. I watched. Honestly, my favorite wrestler of that era is Piper.
Oh yeah, he was one of my favorites. God rest.
All because of those tapes.
He was so bloody entertaining. It wasn't even funny.
Yeah. Piper versus Bret Hart, one of the best matches of all time.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it was. It was actually a good grappling classic, which I don't think Roddy was known for. He was.
No, he wasn't.
He was known for being the scrappy brawler. His was more showmanship, which is
halfway through the match is when he starts going to that, because he realizes he has to win, and he still doesn't win.
No, not you, not like this.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that match.
If I have a sheet to beat you, then I don't deserve the belt. And then, well.
But then I didn't really watch wrestling throughout the 90s.
No?
I got back into wrestling in 2001, 2002. Evolution, HBK, Triple H, Ruthless Aggression. That's when I got back into it.
Holy crap. HBK and Triple H had some really awesome matches around that time. There was an episode of Raw, I think, that closed out 2003. I remember it being kind of a dusty finish, but
there was a lot of those between those two.
Oh, well,
there was a lot of dusty finishes between those two.
But this one in particular, I think, was one of their best matches. The main event of, I think, the last Raw of 2003. It was
Was that the one leading into? No, that would have been later that year. Hell in a Cell when they did the 3 Stages of Hell match.
That ended up, that was in the summer of 2004, or at least the spring.
Yeah.
They had a match at the Royal Rumble, which wasn't quite as good as Raw, and then they had, I think, 1 or 2 more matches in 2000.
Yeah.
Like, they were good, but you could tell they were also trying to outdo one of their best matches on a smaller scale. It's like, well, we had a great match on Raw, everybody loved it, it was well received. Let's really do it, and let's outdo ourselves.
And like, I stopped watching wrestling after Benoit died.
Oh man, yeah, you and a lot of other people, a lot of work.
Eddie and Benoit.
Business on kind of that.
Yeah, Eddie and Benoit. After they were gone, I stopped, and eventually,
that broke.
What was it? I don't remember why I started watching. A highlight of Seth Rollins with the Money in the Bank briefcase, having his foot on Edge's head, telling John Cena to bring back the Authority, or else he was going to break Edge's neck.
Yeah, wow.
I'm sitting here, and I have not watched wrestling in forever.
Mm-hmm.
Hadn't watched wrestling in at least 10 years. And I'm sitting here, and I'm watching this, and I'm like, get him, Cena. Like, I was just like, kill him.
Hey, that just shows how like how good their product is, and how, like, what kind of workers they really are.
That was like the last Raw of 2014, 2015, something like that.
Something like that. Well, and earlier in the year, he'd put Dean Ambrose out of action with a curb stomp on that pile
on the cinder blocks.
Yeah. And he miraculously recovered and was able to shoot a film. How about that, eh?
Right.
It's one thing I always freaking hated.
So, like, I have a weird relationship with wrestling. Like, I call myself, like, a mega wrestling fan, and I'm extremely passionate about it.
You should always be a fan.
But, like, my real fandom started when I found the indie scene, when I started watching Ring of Honor, when I started watching Impact, believe it or not, when I started watching New Japan.
Yes.
That's when I was just like, oh my God.
I mentioned that. All Japan. I got into the All Japan product as well, like Misawa and Kawada and Kobashi and Jun Akiyama and Hiroshi Hase. Like, what a great generation.
I think in 2017, when I really was starting to get into, like, Cody had left WWE.
Yep.
The Bullet Club was really exploding.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when I started, like, deep diving on New Japan history, and I was just like, man, I know who Liger is. Like, I know Jushin Thunder Liger.
Of course.
But, like, I want to know Jushin Thunder Liger. And I just started doing this insane deep dive in 2017. I think I spent, like, 3 months just watching Liger matches in between all other wrestling shows. I was like, let's Liger.
That was time well spent, man, binging on Liger.
Oh my God, yes. Because when they finally did the retirement match between him and Suzuki, that whole storyline, I was so in. I was, like, head over heels, obsessed and so into that storyline. Like, when he took off his mask and went for became the Dark Liger again, and, like,
yes,
I lost it, man. Like, that was insane.
Oh, well, that's the thing. That's one thing I loved about Japanese storylines, not just wrestling, but Japanese television, period. Their storylines seem so simple, but they're so captivating.
They're very, very subtle.
Yes.
In a lot of their stories.
Less is more. Less is more, right?
Less is more.
Yeah.
Like, I think Tetsuya Naito is probably one of the most subtly told stories in wrestling history.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
it's so well done.
Now, I'm not just saying less is more as an excuse to not bump too much. Part of the reason.
Comedy wrestling, man. Comedy wrestling. Shh. You can find ways of bumping without bumping.
Exactly.
So we're going to wrap it up here, man.
Yeah.
And thank you again very much for doing this interview.
Man, it was an honor and a pleasure.
I'll have your Facebook and your YouTube in the description on the bottom. So people, please like, share, subscribe. Bob is an amazing worker and he is an amazing comic mind and wrestling mind that needs to be known more. So I hope people take the time to really check out his YouTube, check out some of the matches, go check out some of his matches at CAW, NWE. Like, you will not regret it at all. So thank you everybody for joining us, and have a good night.
Bye, everyone.